This podcast contains explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Creepy Cannabis Podcast, where we chat all things creepy, cannabis, true crime, paranormal, and weird. I'm Madeline.
And I'm Rachel.
And today,
I froze.
What are we talking about?
I had a hiccup, so I panicked, and I was like, we're going to be talking about the dating and true crime, and how you can never be too careful. And I don't know a single female, and you know what, probably a single male either, but a single female for sure in my life that doesn't have at least one terrible date story, at which point their life was probably an actual peril.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I keep thinking of a girl we used to work with at the salon who told us about, like, this.
That story is...
Yeah. I don't remember the story, but I know it involved about...
I kind of remember it.
48 hours of, like, not being able to leave a date.
Yeah, he, like, just kept taking her places.
Yeah, it was... So, yes, the point is...
And then he didn't have a bed.
Oh, that's right. He didn't have a bed. He did not have a bed.
He's a psychopath.
He fucking had a car, though, to take her everywhere on the Eastern Shore.
He just had a couch in his studio? I don't think so. It wasn't a pull-out couch either.
No, it was... Yes. But the moral of the story is I was thinking a lot about my personal experiences, and it just made me want to do something in that vein. So, what are you going to be... You've already partooketh. You're not partaking. It's been partooketh.
It was an impromptu edible confection.
Was
chocolate. It was a homemade chocolate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't confirm or deny if it was at work, but...
But it was a homemade chocolate. Can you confirm where you received it, or is that...
No.
Okay. Got it.
But it's delicious. Or it was delicious when I ate it. And then it is actually made with something very interesting and unique, which is called RSO, or Rick Simpson oil, because it was invented by a guy named Rick Simpson.
Sounds like a workout coach.
But it's a cannabis concentrate used for many different medical benefits, including relieving cancer symptoms. It's a thick, syrupy consistency, and it can be applied as a topical, but usually it's ingested in food or drinks. So in 2003, Rick Simpson created a cannabis oil after 3 suspicious bumps came up on his arm, and it turned out to be like basal cell sarcoma.
Sarcoma?
It says
sarcoma?
A form of skin cancer.
I've never heard of that before.
Simpson had used cannabis to treat medical issues in the past, so he made a cannabis oil to treat his skin cancer topically, applying it to a bandage and covering the cancerous spots. Apparently, within days, the growths disappeared, and although his physician refused to acknowledge cannabis as a treatment alternative, he became a true believer in the medical powers of cannabis and spread the word of his cannabis oil, later called RSO.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't care what works. If you have cancer one day and then don't another day, live your life.
I mean, there you go. So it's typically recommended for patients medicating symptoms of terminal illnesses, conditions requiring higher dosage, like basically conditions that need higher dosages of THC, because it's a very concentrated form of cannabis.
So how are you feeling?
High.
Fair.
RSO is the end product of a simple extraction technique that yields very high concentrations while ensuring all components of the plant are present. So cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids.
I don't want to know.
I mean flavor, I guess. It's immensely dark in color, thick, sticky, and it's basically packaged in like a syringe. But please don't ever take the whole syringe. It's for dosing out. It has things on the side for the doses. So
it's like
do not take the whole syringe of RSO. And each of the chocolates was either 20 or 30 milligrams.
It reminds me of this hot sauce that Sean has that literally gives you a scoop of how much you're supposed to put in an entire pot of chili, for like an example. And the scoop is smaller than my pinky fingernail. I was like, what the fuck is in that hot sauce? Like, you're gonna, how does anyone find enjoyment in hot sauce? I demand an answer.
Sucks. I like jalapeno hot sauce. It's like mild, like where you can taste it.
Where there's a flavor and it's not just the absence of taste buds after you burned off your soul.
Yes.
Okay. Just glad we're on the same page. Okay. Is that it? Is there more info? More deets?
That's it. So
okay.
I ate a square that was either 20 or 30 milligrams or somewhere in between.
To be determined.
Unclear.
We'll see how you do.
It's strong.
I definitely set up my angles incorrectly, and I'm going to struggle the entire time. So, what brought this on as I was thinking way back, way back, to this horrible date I had when I was I had to have been 17 years old, because it was right after I had had a very tumultuous relationship in high school, and we had broken up, and it was like in that year before I met my husband, because I met him when I was 18. So I'm going to say, for the sake of the story, whatever, I was 17 years old, and I have a really good friend. I'm not going to say her name because she knows what the fuck she did. And she was dating a guy at this time, and she was like, you need to get over your ex. We're just all going to go to the movies together with this other guy, who I am going to name because fuck that guy. His name was AJ. And she was like, you're going to really like him, and it's going to be cool, and it's at the movies, so you don't have to feel like a lot of pressure to talk to him. And I was like, perfect. I don't want to do it, but like, I'm a very passive person, and there's a lot of victim shaming in this day and age in the world,
Sure
and
is.
people always just want to know, how did you end up in that position? Why would you allow yourself to be in that position? I'm going to fucking tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened and exactly my mindset. And it boils down to one simple thing, which is self-preservation. And your body will naturally dictate what you do. And based on how you're designed and how you're built as a human, it will determine the course you take to preserve your safety. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. I believe it with my whole heart. My niece, she's a fight person. If she was in a dangerous situation, she does not hesitate. She is fighting to the death. I freeze in fear.
I would run away.
And I think,
Well, it depends, but yeah, I would run.
She would probably run because she thinks.
I'd assess the situation. If a gun is involved, running may or may not be the right call.
I think I would say it depends, but I think I'm always like a hear it out, empathize with the situation, and try to figure it out. So anyway, we get to the movie. I know this is going to sound shallow, and I don't care. I knew right away he wasn't my type. He just physically wasn't my type. And that's okay. You're allowed to have people you're attracted to or not.
Of course.
But I'm not a dick. I'm like, cool. I'm still gonna, I'm not gonna act like a jerk to him. I still chatted him up.
Sure.
Like, everything was normal and it was fine. He, a couple times throughout, the movie, would attempt to hold my hand and stuff, and I would pull away. Like, I made it clear I was not interested in physical contact. Where I think we can do better as people, and as women especially, is paying attention to your friends. Don't put your friends in these positions. You're my best friend. First of all, I would never spring that on you. It's extremely inappropriate.
Well, I'm also an introvert, so I would want to kill myself.
But you would tell me you weren't down with that. You're an introvert, but you will stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
But she in no way paid attention to the fact that I was terrified. I was very uncomfortable immediately.
Oh, I know right away.
I have no shame in saying I come from a background of sexual abuse. I don't like being touched when I did not invite you to touch me. I don't care if it's...
No one does. Ew.
No. I don't care if it's you holding my hand, putting your hand on my back. I don't care.
It's unacceptable.
I don't want to be touched if I don't know you. And I didn't want this date. So we're going to leave. The date is over. And the movie theater was only about 15 minutes from my house. And she just goes, AJ's going to drive you home. Bye. And leaves me with this guy.
She's the devil.
And I love her. She is still a very good friend, and we were teenagers. She was a kid, I was a kid.
She was the devil in that moment.
But I was immediately so scared. And the natural type of person I am,
makes me sick to my stomach.
I was too afraid to do anything else. When I tell you I freeze in fear, that's the core of who I am.
What were your other options?
Uber
I guess.
Well, also you have to remember I'm 32 years old, so I didn't have a cell phone at the time either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I did, but my mom would take it away a lot. So, like,
no Uber.
And my
no
mom didn't know.
apps.
Thinking back, I think she maybe dropped it on me when we got to the theater. I don't think I even knew in advance I was going to be... For some reason, I know that my mom didn't let me have my phone that day because of something I'd done, but she also trusted because I was out with a friend I grew up with. Whatever. So we get in his car, and I'm just like, play nice, be nice. So for everyone listening, that's the first thing that women are naturally taught to do, is appease other people. Play nice. Appease. So I was like, okay, don't be rude, don't be mean, because you have to understand, as a woman, if somebody asks me what I'm most afraid of other than like your typical like whatever, it's men. I'm afraid of men.
Oh, yeah. If I'm walking on the street and there is a man walking behind me and he's too close, I will either cross the street or stop, depending on
I'll look at them. I'll turn around and look at them.
Situation.
Yeah.
Which, like, is funny because I've been seeing a lot of TikToks lately about, like, from the guy's perspective, and they like, joke, like, who's behind us? Like,
I do feel bad for guys because I don't think...
but I don't trust you.
The thing is, for me, and, like, whatever, this has nothing to do with equality. A man could overtake me. Okay. I'm not strong. I'm not strong individually. This is my personal life. I'm not strong, and I believe a man could overtake me, but also penetrate me. And I don't want to be penetrated against my will. That's what I think about. I'm like, a guy could rape me, a guy could, whatever. I'm afraid of them.
Yeah.
And so my natural inclination is to appease the situation away. Just remain calm and be nice. Don't do anything to upset them, because you have to remember, I'm 16 years old and I have known this guy for an hour and a half. I don't know. I barely knew his name. I don't know where he lives. I don't know.
What was AJ short for?
Yeah, I don't know anything. It's very scary. And I didn't put myself in that situation. And I didn't think quick enough about a way to get out of it. Like, what was I going to do? Go to the fucking kiosk and be like, can you help me? Like, whatever. So we're driving and I'm directionally challenged, but I notice immediately that we are not going to my house. Instantly, because out of the movie theater, the way he went, it is not the way to my house. So for like a couple minutes, I remain calm and I'm like, okay, I don't know directions. Maybe he's going a different way that I'm not used to or that I don't know of. And then we start driving in the woods. And at this point, I'm like, oh, okay, like he's not taking me home.
How did you get to the woods so fast?
So it was the movie theaters in White Marsh, and there's a lot of like rural land around there. Yeah, so there was like a lot of like little back roads and like whatever. And I do have like a scattered memory about it because like it was scary and whatever. So at that point I was like, hey, like, I don't think this is the way to my house. Where are we? And he was like, oh, I just want to show you something real quick on the way. And I gotta tell you, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl, you're in a situation where someone is taking you somewhere that you don't know against your will without consulting with you. I immediately had to fill in the blanks. I had no idea what his intentions were, but they weren't my intentions. That's all I knew. And I was like, okay, prepare yourself. Because either way, like, this isn't what you asked for. So, you know, I'm thinking, oh my God, like, am I going to get raped out here? Am I going to get fucking murdered? Like, is he going to have a bunch of his guy friends out here and some weird shit going down? Like, I don't know. So we drive a while longer, and I honestly don't think we were driving that long. Like, I feel like it was probably only like 10 or 15 minutes. And we pull up to this giant, like, metal, I want to say like a warehouse, but essentially it's like a giant metal building in the middle of the woods. It kind of looked like a construction site. And I was like, in that moment, my heart was racing and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fucking die out here. Like, and no one's going to know. Like, this is a friend of mine's boyfriend's friend from school. Like, I don't even know.
Like, who is this man?
So we pull in and nobody's there. It's just this giant lit up, like, warehouse garage is kind of what it was. And there's just cars everywhere, like, inside. Trucks and cars. No. And he's like, oh, like, these are my cars. And I just wanted to show you my cars. Also, side note, guys, and this has happened to me with my husband, with this freak, with a bunch of guys I've dated. Do you ever notice how they just always want to show you their shit?
Yeah,
like, do. We don't fucking care.
I don't want to see
your toys. I don't want to see your shit. You're not proving anything to me. You're just scaring me like a fucking weirdo in the middle of the woods.
Well, this guy is.
Like, literally, Sean wanted to show me like his fucking Pokemon cards. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
That's all they
I mean,
have.
I
That's all
chose
they
this
have.
life with him, but whatever. So anyway, he's like, I just wanted to show you my cars. And at this point, I'm still being nice. I'm like, okay, like, I don't know what's going on. And
I feel
he's
like you
like,
could have prefaced that before showing up in the woods, bro.
he could have just been like, hey, before I take you home, do you mind
Yeah, well, that would have been a great start.
XYZ? And I could say, yes, I do. Thank you so much for asking.
I would like to go the fuck home.
Maybe during the day when it's not pitch black out and I've had a chance to, I don't know, have a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. So I get out of the car and he is like, okay, look at this truck. And I'm like, sure, yeah, like whatever. He's showing me some shit. I'm looking at the truck. And he pulls out his phone and just starts taking my picture. And I'm like,
I'd rather die.
What's happening? And he was like, well, I just want to take a couple pictures of you in front of the cars.
He jerked off to this.
So then I find myself in a situation where am I going to run to? Right? I'm like, because my brain starts assessing, like, do I need to run? What's going on? There's nowhere to run to. He clearly knows where we are, and I do not. He has a phone. I do not. He has a car. I do not. This is when people say, why didn't you leave? Why did you put yourself in this situation? This is why. What was I going to do? And at this point, like, I still don't know what's happening. So I proceed to let him take several pictures of me posing on and around these cars for like 20 minutes. And finally, this whole time I'm not saying anything. Like, I'm just doing it. I'm so scared. I don't know what's going on. And he's being nice. He's just like, oh yeah, that looks nice. Like, at no point did he like ask me to take my clothes off or like touch me or anything like that. But it was so weird. So I had a lot of time to think. And finally I was like, hey, like, can you tell me what time it is? Just because my mom knew, when the movie was over and I don't have my phone. So she's probably really freaking out. Can you maybe like call my friend and like, so I could just talk to her in case my mom's worried. And he got visibly flustered and was like, oh yeah, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And he was like, oh, and I was like, can you just take me home? And then maybe we can go on like another date and come back. And then maybe you could like take me for a ride in one of them. That would be nice. Cause like, I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And thankfully in my situation, he did. We got in the car and he took me home. But like, that's not always the case.
No, it's not.
And in the case of this story that I'm going to tell you, her name was Katie Locke, who is a 23-year-old history and politics teacher. That was not the case for her. And it's just a story about how no matter how careful you are and no matter which route you take, if a person has
I don't trust anyone.
Evil intentions, they have evil intentions and you can't really do anything about it. So, like I mentioned, Katie Locke, she was a history and politics teacher at the Cardinal Pole School, I'm going to mess this up, in Hackney, East London. She was super pretty. They had a bunch of pictures of her on the, I watched like a YouTube documentary on it. She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and she was just described as like not having a bad bone in her body, just a very empathetic person, which I think most teachers probably have to be.
They should be.
Raising a bunch of people's hellions.
They should be, but yeah, it's a tough job.
Yeah, and in a family statement, it was really sad. It was said that Katie worked hard and loved her job as a teacher, and in what little spare time she did have, she did like sports and being active. But they said, we feel like our future has been stolen from us because it has. That's exactly what occurred because your child was murdered.
Yeah.
So, like many people living in super busy times, Katie took to online dating to make a connection using Plenty of Fish, which
Plenty of Fish is the sketchiest one.
So that's what they said. So I didn't know this, but in
even the way that it looks, its interface is like 2003 MySpace vibes.
Well, it's free, so it's very attractive to a lot of people.
Tinder.
Well, this is 2015, so like it was, and this is also in London. So apparently it's really popular. Well,
didn't it?
Probably. I don't know. I've been married a long time, but I know from the documentary, Plenty of Fish was super, super popular in London at the time. So she went on Plenty of Fish, and being an intelligent person, she took a lot of precautions to ensure her safety, although that ultimately proved unsuccessful, sadly. So on the Plenty of Fish site, she met a guy named Carl Langdell, who told Katie he was a lawyer with his own firm. And if you did like a simple Facebook or like online search for Carl, I mean, he looked super well adjusted. He was pretty attractive. He seemed to have like really healthy social connections. Like for all intents and purposes, he looked normal, air quotes. And there was nothing in that profile that would like indicate to her that he was anybody other than what he said he was. And I wasn't clear, but I think he did actually practice law. Like I think there was some truth to what he was saying, but
Bird law.
Ultimately he had bad intentions regardless. So they exchanged messages for about 2 weeks before they agreed to go on a date on December 23rd, 2015 at a bar called Traffic with a K, in an up and coming like hipster area of London. So like a popular area. And again,
like New York City.
She was super careful too. So she showed a photo of Carl to her friend, told her where she was going, told her like all his information. And then she reached out to her friend that day and was like...
That's more than I would do.
Oh, no, you know I'm paranoid. I lock my bedroom door at night, as we've discussed.
Oh, right. I still don't. As we've discussed.
You're going to be murdered.
Fuck. I get high and I forget.
I'm very careful now, like, but definitely as a teen I was clearly not. But yeah, so she told her friend all the details and then messaged her friend like on the date to tell her it was going really well. So she was doing everything right, like
due diligence,
better than, like you said, a lot of us would be doing. As the night went on, though, there were reports that Carl was getting like inebriated, like extremely drunk, super heavy drinking.
Men getting super drunk is disgusting.
It's just weird on a first date.
I just
like Sean gets super drunk, and we know the Waluigi incident. Bro,
oh God,
you want to talk about a creepy
incident.
story? We'll tell you about it. The night Sean was almost caught these hands. He almost caught these hands.
Almost murdered in this home.
And it was because he was belligerent. But I just think it's weird. Yeah, like on a first date, like
that's crazy.
Typically you're putting your best foot forward.
Trying to hide your shittiest qualities?
Apparently not. But yes, he was getting inebriated and she wasn't. Like from reports, like I think she was drinking, but she was drinking a normal amount and high functioning. But he got so drunk that he was like puking everywhere.
Oh no.
And you know, Katie being like, sorry, I just realized all the sirens were probably annoying people
we live
listening.
In the city.
Yeah. Last night there were literally 25 gunshots 2 streets over from my house.
Through it.
And I was like, okay.
Just in a slight coma.
I just carried on with my evening.
Okay.
At this point, nothing surprises me. But I didn't even notice it until like the siren stopped. Let me focus. Okay. So he was like vomiting, he was getting sick, and Katie seemed like a super nurturing person. So bearing all that in mind, like the events that followed aren't super surprising to me in terms of like her letting her guard down at all, because she just is a caring person and she's done her due diligence. There were a lot of theories as to why he was doing such heavy drinking. So some people thought he was trying to get some liquid courage to complete like these awful plans he had clearly thought about. Other people thought like maybe he just drank like that all the time.
Oh, Jesus.
Some people thought he was trying to drink himself out of it. Like
what plans?
Trying to get past it. I personally think it was a combination of him trying to get the liquid courage, but also trying to disarm her. He was clearly a predator. He knew that she was an empathetic person from talking to her.
How can you be that way when you're shit-faced?
I mean, it's just my opinion. It's probably more likely, and as I get like further into it and you learn more about him, like it's probably more likely that he was working up the nerve or trying to work himself out of it. But either way, like I said, I just think it's weird. It would be a really big red flag to me, like, but I don't know that it would change what I was doing because I wasn't in her situation. So then she, for whatever reason, agreed to go back with him to his hotel and share a taxi or car service with him, which she paid for. Records also show that he vomited in it all over it, and she had to pay to have it cleaned as well.
Wow.
So she gave her card for that. Like I said, I'm not clear why it didn't seem off to her, just given how careful she'd been. But I don't really know the context of their conversations, like leading up to this. So maybe she felt like it was safer to end the night in a public place rather than like his house. But it didn't sound like he was really like well enough to carry out what he ended up doing. I don't know.
Unless he was faking the throwing up.
No, he was confirmed. Like, I don't know how you could fake the amount of throwing up this thing said he was doing. Like, and he was visibly drinking that much too. But I said it a bunch of times. I'm gonna say it again for those of you in the back. Nobody ever just like thinks that this shit's gonna happen to them. No. Even if you prepare for it, even if you're really paranoid, even me in that creepy fucking locker in the middle of nowhere, I was really scared, but my brain didn't allow me to like ever get to the point where I'm like, okay, like you're in mortal danger. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think I don't think your body acknowledges that until like it's upon you, like until it's actually happening. So they arrived at the hotel. It was the Theobald's Park Hotel in Waltham Cross, Herefordshire, which was Whew, it was why is everything in England named like 47 names? Why can't it just be like
the motherland?
The Hilton.
I don't know.
It was a 4-star hotel though, so really nice. Presumably intended to help him keep up appearances. Carl keep up appearances about his like career and financial situation.
Fucking crazy.
Bro, they are.
Except my brother Carl. He's probably not listening, so that's fine.
Wait, you have a brother named Carl?
Stepbrother.
That's his name?
Lucas.
Okay, you've told me this before, and I apologize for forgetting.
There's no real reason we do, but we do.
You just do. Look, maybe it's a precursor. You know the shit that's going down. I was kind of put off by the fact that he pre-booked a hotel just because I felt like it clearly showed intentions of using it, and whether or not those intentions were like just to hook up or carry out like deviant acts, it doesn't really matter. It's a personal opinion, but I feel like whenever you go out with someone, guys just always assume it's going to end in sex. Mm-hmm. Like all the time. Mm-hmm. Like,
they want it to, so they try and manifest it.
Like, also, TMI, but like, I'm just going to put it out there. Like, we get our periods. We're not just always available for like penetration at your convenience. No. Hope that made you uncomfortable. Because you know what makes me uncomfortable? The assumption that if I ever want to go out with a guy, I got to prepare and shave down my whole body like a naked baby seal just in case you try to penetrate me and I allow it. It's a lot of effort.
It is a lot of effort.
Meanwhile, they just fucking slap some deodorant in their pits.
I just want to lie there and do nothing.
Yeah. I tell my husband all the time, we mutually agree that even if we fucking hate each other, we'll just agree to stay married so we don't have to delve back into dating. No, we'll just like, what do you need from me? You need a monthly sex commitment? I got you. But like, we're not going back out there into that shit.
No, not out there.
Plus, I've already trained him exactly how I like things sexually. And that's a commitment. And I don't feel like teaching another guy. You know, once you get them perfectly trained to like exactly everything you like, that takes years. Years, ladies. Years. Many, many years of letting him get just drunk enough to not have his feelings hurt when I tell him I haven't liked what he's been doing for the past 6 months. Years of dedication.
Told you yet.
Yes. Years. Anyway, I feel very passionately about that subject matter. But either way, whatever. Like I said, I have no idea what they talked about. Very likely as well, she could have said, like, if the night goes well, let's go back to your place. Whatever. I don't know.
Who knows?
That's all hearsay and just my opinion. So, circling back, when they arrived, he was so drunk that the receptionist had to help Katie with him, and as expected, it was reported that Katie, like, completely had her wits about her, capable of handling the situation. Like, she needed help because he's a guy falling over. But we do know that Katie made it to the room safely with him. She called down for toothbrushes that the receptionist brought up, and at the time, the receptionist reported that Katie and Carl seemed fine. Like, nothing seemed off or weird. And this was, like, the early morning hours of Christmas Eve. So they had been out all night, and then this was, like, the wee hours, and Katie was probably just like, fuck it, I'm gonna sleep here for the night. And that was the last time she was ever seen alive, was by that receptionist.
That's fucked up, man.
So what I personally found the most interesting about this entire situation was that just 9 months prior to these events, Carl had told the NHS of having deviant sexual fantasies, which in particular involved murdering and raping young women.
Wonderful.
And at the time of meeting Katie, at the time that he was just surfing plenty of fish, he had just been released on a reduced sentence for threatening to kill a community psychiatric nurse.
Oh.
So I heard
So
like
a great guy all around.
I heard two different things, and I think they were one and the same, but like just two perspectives. I think the person he threatened to kill was his girlfriend's sister, who happened to also be a psychiatric nurse. But I couldn't tell if it was two people or if they were the same person. However, he'd been suffering with mental illness for years and was passed from person to person and received multiple different diagnoses. I'll never be able to have full pity on people who just commit murder and heinous acts to other people. However, he was like very clearly seeking treatment and had confessed to his fantasies in an attempt to actually get help or manipulate somebody. But either way, he made it very clear.
And they let him go.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. We talked about it before when I was talking about all of the movie set murders. But, like, this is in London, too. So this is, like, a worldwide thing. And, you know, they have universal health care. He had access. And the people that he had access to just... whatever. So... yeah, he was given this, like, long sentence for it. I think it was, like, 20-something years he was given, and then it was reduced. I couldn't find why it was reduced, like, if it was good behavior or, like, whatever, but it was reduced. And, of course, the NHS, like, later I'll go into it, but they were like, there's no way we could have anticipated. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there is. There is.
You know, maybe him telling you point blank, I don't know.
Just, like, the admittance.
Either way.
That's fine.
So... I don't know what, yes I do. The wee hours of the morning, I just said. I was about to be like, I don't know when the receptionist left, but I do. So she leaves, and at some point, I'm not clear when this happened, but he decides, like, I gotta do it now. Like, I don't know if he, like, sobered up a bit, or he was just feeling it. Sorry, I gotta adjust. I'm not comfortable. Okay. So he proceeded to strangle Katie to death. I always, like, have a really morbid thought process where I'm just, like, always thinking about what would be the least offensive way to go, and none of it. But, like, compared to some of the torture things I've heard, like, I'm always a little bit relieved when, like, somebody didn't have, like, their fucking fingers cut off first or whatever. But it doesn't change, like, how sad I am for the situation, but I just think about that. Like, when I hear about some of the horrible things people can do, I'm like, okay.
It's shocking.
However, that was just the beginning for him. He did proceed to carry out his innermost fantasy, which had also been brought forth to NHS, and he assaulted her corpse.
No.
Now, I feel like every episode I'm like, let me just get on my soapbox for like a minute every time, but I'm just gonna climb up real quick. One of the documentaries I was watching said he had sex with her body. He did not have sex with her body. He raped her corpse.
Yes.
It is rape.
Yeah.
And the reason that this bothers me is because first of all, I talk a lot. Words are important to me. And I feel like the words that people say matter, and that trivializes what happened. You are trivializing the fact that he raped her corpse by saying that he had sex with it.
Of course. That's typical America.
Well, this is in the UK.
I mean...
it was a UK documentary.
That's right.
It's typical
I'm just saying
human
it's also
indecency. I was like, I know you want to get hot, but let me remind you, it's everywhere. It's the whole system is flawed. But I didn't like that wording. It bothered me. It hurt my feelings. So he did do that. And then he proceeded to take pictures of her body on his phone. I also usually will look up crime scene photos, but I just could not bring myself to even investigate if these existed. So I can't tell you because I couldn't bring myself to. Now, one of the diagnoses. Yes. One of the diagnoses he received, indicated that he had the type of personality of a, I don't know how I want to word this. I'm struggling, but he would suffer with extreme self-doubt and loathing, as well as impulse control. And his past alone should have been a clear indicator for his propensity to act.
Psycho. But
yet somehow nothing came of it, as we discussed. I don't know. I feel like in life, people just don't listen and participate in active listening to one another, because this was a situation, like, it wasn't where a calm and collected person laid out a well-orchestrated plan, like a serial killer who, like, meticulously didn't want to get caught. This was like an unstable, sick person who sought help, was consumed by a sick fantasy, and wasn't even really trying to be careful to get away with it. Like, he got belligerent, didn't put himself in a situation where he could really, like there was no way of him getting out of this. Mm-hmm. So, not making any excuses for him, but he clearly, like, I think it was planned in the sense that he always wanted to do it, but I think he was very, very much so all consumed by his sick fantasies and couldn't control it, and therefore didn't care about the circumstances around it. Which, I don't know how much he was, like, seeking help versus him conveying it, but either way, he conveyed it. He did convey it, and it was just whatever. But his fantasies got the better of him, and eventually that's what it came to. The NHA said something like 97% of people, like, will talk about it, and 3% of people will do it, and it's our job to, like, try to determine the 3%, and they just didn't determine that he was part of that.
I guess not.
But whatever. Just to be clear, I don't empathize, like, with his actions. I empathize for Katie and the fact that I think it was avoidable in her situation. So, one of my favorite Criminal Minds episodes, actually, because, look, y'all know, that's where I get all my detective skills, but all of their episodes are based on real cases or real situations. And one of my favorite ones, which had an actor I really liked who, R.I.P., like, got run over by his own car and died.
Wait, who?
It was the guy, he's the guy who played he was in Star Trek, like, Beam Me Up, Scotty, but not Simon Pegg. It was, like, the young guy with the Anton Yelchin. I want to say that's his name. Mm-hmm. And I really like him. And he was, like, in his driveway or something, and I guess got out of his car and, like, walked down the hill to, like, get his mail, and his car, like, rolled down and, like, pinned him and killed him.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, it was really sad. But he was in this episode, I'm pretty sure. I gotta look it up now. But the whole episode was about this teenager who had these sexual fantasies about killing and, like, torturing women. And killings start happening in the area where he lives, that you're kind of the whole episode wondering if it's him or not. And he goes to, like, the character Reed and is like, hey, like, trying to let him know, like, I have these fantasies and, like, I'm very concerned about it. Like, I'm concerned I'm going to hurt someone. And they're kind of, like, brushing him off and, like, whatever, you're 16 years old. And at the end, you find out it wasn't him, but he picks up a prostitute and he wants to kill her. And he panics because he doesn't want to be a murderer.
Just want to kill people.
It was like a psychological problem. So he kills himself. He kills himself and he calls Spencer because he had his, like, business card. And Spencer shows up, like, in time to, like, be there with him when he dies. And he's like, I knew if I didn't kill myself, I was going to kill somebody else. And it was really sad, but it makes me think, like, not every person who has a terrible thought or a terrible fantasy or a terrible disorder, like, not every one of them resort to this. Like,
yeah.
Not that I'm not saying you have to kill yourself if you have bad thoughts. Let's just be super, super clear.
Intrusive thoughts are very normal.
But, like, there are many people who suffer with I have inappropriate thoughts of various nature, like, that don't resort to that, or that work really, really hard all the time against that and value human life above that. So I just thought that was interesting because I didn't know when I was going into the story that it was going to, like, kind of remind me of that situation. So Katie's dead and Carl had to figure out how to dispose of her body. So he logically wraps her in a duvet and puts her in a laundry cart so that he can, like, wheel her to the fire escape.
Who didn't see him put her in the laundry cart?
Well, he did it in their room. He killed her in the room.
Well, who didn't see him bring a laundry cart into the room?
Well, it was like 3 a.m. or something. I don't know. I made up that time, but it was like the wee hours. So he puts her in the laundry cart and he gets her to the fire escape undetected. And then he pulls her out and drags her all the way down the stairs.
Dear God.
Into the nearby woods, about 50 feet, and then, like, covered her up with some, like, brush and leaves and stuff, and then just went back to the hotel and went to bed.
You have to be fucking kidding me.
Like, peacefully asleep.
Minimal effort.
That's what always bothers me, too. Like, how the fuck do you just sleep? I can't sleep about a rude shit I said to, like, a 3rd grade classmate 100 years ago.
I can't sleep about one wrong thing I said.
Today. Yes. You'll
think about it for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, you'll try to lay down and close your eyes, and they'll just spring open with fear.
And then you're like, wow, I sounded like some fucking asshole when I said that.
Yes, until the day you die. You could literally have fucking Alzheimer's, and you'll be laying on your deathbed
it's
like,
called anxiety.
Ugh, I can't believe I said that stupid shit.
It's called anxiety. You know who doesn't have those thoughts?
Sean.
People with no anxiety, apparently. And they just fall right asleep. They hit the pillow, and they just knock right out.
Sean Kelly.
And I'm like, how do you do
I feel really bad for Sean, because he never experienced anxiety, like, beyond, like, normal anxiety until fertility treatment, and then he started having nightmares really bad, and he was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, like I just keep having all these nightmares, I keep thinking all these thoughts. I was like, bruh. Anxiety. And he was like,
welcome to the shit
he was like, how are you not tired all the time with the anxiety you're carrying around? And I was
God,
like,
I feel like, and then I have such vivid dreams that are sometimes really stressful, and then I'm like, when am I resting here?
I also, for the first time in my life, had the typical like your teeth fall out dream.
Oh yeah.
Like 2 years ago was the first time I ever had it.
Well,
I'd never had it
all the time when I'm stressed, really stressed.
I've literally been stressed since the day I came forth to my mother's womb, and I've never had that dream.
I used to get it a lot in college.
This was definitely at the height of like my fertility treatments crashing and burning, so that's fair. But I was like on a porch in my dream, put in my retainer, and it was too tight, and all my teeth cracked and fell out. It was so weird.
I've had one where I like bite into an apple, and then they all like are still in the apple.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Oh, it's so bad.
I also have a lot of dreams that I go
have to
bald.
feel my teeth when I wake up.
Yeah. I had a dream. Well, I started losing my hair like in the front with my like hormonal disorder, and I started getting severe anxiety dreams that I just am chilling, walk into the bathroom, and just like you see like a scary person in the mirror, I just see like a giant ass bald spot, and I was like, oh my God, they're horrible. I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, is it still there? Right. But I mean, that's superficial. Like if all my hair falls out, I'll have to just live, but it's a scary dream. So, yes, this person, he goes back to bed. Just like that. And then in the morning, he eats his breakfast, checks out, goes home, walks the dog. Like, I feel like he literally, like, dissociated from the situation and just proceeded with normal life. Like, clear indicators that he has, like, a severe problem. Yeah, like, he's not well. Like, should not be a member of society. Unwell. So, thankfully, Katie's friend was, like, not having any of it. And when her worried parents, like, reached out, she was like, I got his photo, I got his phone number, I got his digits, like, I got everything you need. And Katie's dad literally found Carl and, like, went to his house where his mom was because Carl wasn't home. And he gave her his number and was like, hey, can you just, like, reach out if you hear anything? My daughter was with him last night. And she was like, yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. So her dad goes about his day, and I feel like he's probably, like, stressed out. I feel like you're not listening to my story because you're on your phone.
Okay, it was a work situation. I just have to deal with a template. It's fine.
Okay, it just hurt my feelings a little bit.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, thank you. It's almost over. Yes, I give you my full attention every week, but it's fine.
I know.
I mean, you're important. It's fine. So this guy, just like I said before, living his life, not thinking the worst, like stressed, but like, whatever. She's probably just like, whatever. So this lady, the mother of Carl, calls this guy while he's walking his dog and is like, yeah, my son strangled and murdered her daughter and then had sex with her body and took pictures of it on his phone.
How do you say that out of your mouth?
Because he's a monster, is what she said. And I'm over here like, props to mom, though, for being like, okay, you committed murder, like, I don't have your back. I'm calling someone about it. So obviously, like, can you imagine, though, being told by a stranger, completely unsuspecting, that your daughter is dead, but also the stranger is the mother of the person who killed your daughter?
Yep. No.
Like, I mean, no thanks.
I can't imagine that. That's insane.
Obviously, he called the police right away, and Carl was immediately arrested at a nearby park. And once in custody, it took him 5 hot seconds to make a full confession, which he would later try to modify, of course.
Oh, of course. They always do.
I personally think he only confessed because he was just used to manipulating the system. Like, he had clearly just gotten away with some shit before and got a reduced sentence. So I think he thought, like, oh, I'll confess. It'll make me look more like I empathize and I'm sorry. And maybe I'll get, like, a lesser sentence. But when he realized, like, people know you're a murderer now and like they're not treating you the same way as when you just like made these claims. Like he tried to walk that shit back real quick. As you can imagine, let's all guess what he landed on, folks. He landed on,
I forgot,
that Katie was into BDSM, and between the drinking and whatever else, it went too far.
Oh.
Also, side note, the poor BDSM community.
I know, they are really
like
just...
You do understand that in order to practice, like actually practice that, you have to have the most trusting community and relationship.
And there's a safe word.
But like that, but even so, like I think it's deeper than that. I watched a lot of stuff on the behind the scenes of 50 Shades where they have like an actual BDSM guy, and it's like it's so much more than that. It's not just like, first of all, you're not safe wording if you have like that ball gag in your mouth. So do you know how trusting and how respectful that relationship has to be? And meanwhile, every time a fucking kook wants to get off for a murder charge, they're like, she liked BDSM. So what I'm saying is, BDSM crew, we see you. And we know. We know it ain't you. Not like they're listening. Nobody gives a shit. What is like four of our friends listen to this podcast?
There might be one person in like 6 countries.
I mean,
it
listen.
says less than 1%.
If
so
one of you
one listener
is into BDSM, we know. We know it ain't like this. This went nowhere because it was a blatant falsehood. And Katie had like a ton of character witnesses on her behalf, including like intimate partners that she had sex with that were like, she's not into that. Like, that's not what went down. So Carl did end up pleading guilty to the murder of Katie Locke and was tried at the St. Albans Crown Court, where he received imprisonment with a minimum of 26 years. And it was stated that throughout the process, he was super manipulative and controlling and put Katie's family through hell. So much so, like the documentary I was watching, the case just really stuck with so many of the people because of the fact that he was like just literally in the middle of a reduced sentence conviction. So like he was convicted, like he was still being like monitored, and he was still able to get on this site and prey on Katie. And I think a lot of people at the time too were super angry at like the platform and just there not being like a lot of safety measures involved for people.
Plenty of Fish is disgusting.
But like at the same time, I see both sides because like you can't blame a platform for somebody being a sicko, just like you can't blame murderers or movies for like murders. But I get the frustration at the same time because it's just like there have to be some security measures you can put in place. But honestly, you just never really know a person. Look how many husbands like murder their wives in the middle of nowhere. How many?
Chris Watts. Oh my god.
Yeah, I still cannot watch that documentary. Like
it's heartbreaking.
I just can't really get into stuff with dead kids. Like I just can't.
When the kids start singing about how great their dad is, it's just like, ooh,
I want to punch him in the dick hole.
He deserves to rot now.
And his girlfriend too. She can go fuck herself as well.
She's definitely heavily involved. She's a fuck.
Like the fact that I have to have a conversation with my husband that's like, hey, if you ever don't want to be with me, let me just assure you I'd rather you be a cheater than me be dead.
Or just tell me and we'll get a divorce.
Well, like I think a lot of problems is that they think divorce is going to cost them all this money, and it's like they don't want to deal with any of that. They just want you gone. And I'm like, look, well, Sean and I don't have any money, so that's not a concern. And honestly, Sean wouldn't kill me because if he did, he'd have all 5 of our cats, and he wants nothing less.
He'd dump those bitches in a minute.
He tells me all the time he'll put them in my grave and they can suffocate to death. Isn't that horrible?
I don't even doubt it.
You're like, bitch, who do you think is helping him get him to the cemetery? But I think the moral of the story is be safe. There's a lot of people that are victimized just dating. Dating is so scary, and it's not just women. Like, there are guys just like, there's not a lot of safe sites for like gay men in particular. So, you know, they're like stuck on Grindr, like getting like fucked over because they're just trying to like secretly live their lives because God forbid they openly live them.
Yeah, of course.
So it's just like a scary, scary, scary place to be. And it's just, you know, even if you take every precaution, it's just sometimes not enough.
Always have mace.
Honestly, like, I'm like, hey, if you ever need to go on a date and you think you might die, call me and Maddie and I can sit in the booth, like 2 booths over, and we'll just have your back.
Yeah, just watch from afar.
We'll watch, we'll trail, we'll put on our private investigator caps, and we'll save the fucking day.
Yeah.
Because we've both been victims of
don't mind.
creepy... Have you ever had, like, a traumatic date story, or have you been, thankfully, unscathed?
Not a date, because I basically dated my ex from 17 to 25.
Okay, so
Or-
just several years of a bad date.
I mean, yeah.
Got it. Okay, so yes, you do. You have a story, it's just
yes,
lengthy.
but not like that. not like he tried to kill me.
Just
But
more so, like, guys constantly like, threatening
when
your
I was
personal
younger-
space. And...
Oh, yeah, when I was younger, just, like, men, like, following me, being creepy,
Oh,
shouting
yeah.
at me. I mean, we talked about that last
Yeah, because the moment you're, like, out of school age, they're not interested anymore.
Yeah.
And you're like...
And it's just like, at what point are you walking down a road, a man is following behind you, shouting things at you? At what point do you, like, turn around and interact, or do you just continue to pretend like nothing's happening?
Because you don't
Or
want to
do you-
make them more irate by, like, engaging
Yeah.
or ignoring.
My favorite is when guys are like, why didn't you just not give him your number? And it's like, because he was standing next to me, imposing upon my bubble of existence,
Yes.
waiting for me to type in his number, and then watching me put it in, and then insisting I text him so he get my number.
Yeah, it's like, if I have to
front of
choose
him.
between having to change my number later or possibly being attacked because I pissed you off,
Yeah, that
Like-
guy, like that guy that followed me in my car. at
Yeah.
work.
for sure. Abso-freaking-lutely.
And then he called me like nonstop. It was like 10 times a day for weeks.
Like, at what point, yeah, you have to just prioritize your safety, and sometimes you
And
just
I
have to
reported
do
it to
things.
the police, and they were like, "He's just calling you." And I was like, "Okay." He also knows what my car looks like, knows where I work.
But
I
that's
walk
the
to
problem
my car
is
every night.
nobody can act until something physically happens to
And I'm
you.
like, okay, well, this is creepy behavior.
That's why stalkers are so dangerous, because
I
it's
know.
constantly you're told, we can't do anything until they do something to you. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, when the thing
It's
they
like
do to
I
me is
gave
kill
them
me.
his phone number, which is linked to him in some way. Can't do anything.
No. Nope. It's horrible. You'd have better luck calling the phone company and just being like, hey, can you permanently block this guy's way of reaching me? But then they can just call you from other numbers. The point is, like, you just gotta
I knew
stick
what my
together.
car looked like is the thing.
Yeah. He knew where you, basically kind of where you worked as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just as people, just like, keep an eye
That's
out for
when
your
I quit
friends.
the first time.
Oh, yeah. Don't put your friends in compromising
I had to quit
positions.
my job.
She did.
Because I did not feel safe.
Because it's, yeah, and, just be cognizant of other people. Like, it's not fun and games. Like, there are dangerous people out there. Just be cognizant. Like, there
It's
is
like you try
a...
and be nice, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
they take it as like you're interested, and it's like, no,
I just don't want to have an altercation.
I don't want to confuse you here, but I don't want you to kill me.
Well, first of all, I pity the guy who tries to, like, pull one over on me, because when they see how fucking long my leg hair is, I assure you, they're not going to be interested. But more so just, like, and, all girls have a code. Like, tell me this isn't true. Like, if you're at a club dancing, and,
Which I
like,
never would be.
so
but
say we're,
yes.
like, facing each other dancing, and I see a guy coming up behind you that's just, like, gross and
No.
creepy, and he wants, back in the day, they want to do that grind. I will
would just
straight
come
up
up behind
spin my
you.
friend around, fucking palm him to the face, and just be like,
Yes.
we're lesbians, like, we're not
Yes.
fucking interested. I mean, poor
Goodbye.
lesbians, like, R.I.P. the amount of times I said I was a lesbian to convince a guy, like, I had no interest
Did
in
they
his
care?
penis.
No.
Oh, no, I would always get, well, why don't you just make out in front of me? Like, it's synonymous that if you're a lesbian, you're into, like, just people watching you make out.
No, sir, you misunderstood me. You disgust me.
I mean, all I can do every day is thank the literal heavens that Sean is just, like, a normal person who understands marriage, and that means sometimes you only get sex once a month, and if he doesn't like it, he just whacks off like you're supposed to. It is what it is. Like, this is America, people. This marriage is having sex before you get married, getting married, coming up with every feasible excuse never to bone again, and then occasionally letting him get it in for 2 minutes. That's it.
And then you
That's
die.
it. Every once in a while, I'll have a sip of wine, get a little extra freaky, still for 2 minutes, and then move on with my day. And he's perfectly happy like that. You know why? Because I'm not bitching about stupid shit, other than wanting more cats, which, I'm going to be honest,
You do talk about it a lot.
but
Which
he
now,
finally got it. He finally got it, guys. I was crying the other day. I'm gonna be honest, I had my period. I was crying. I was crying about everything. I was like, why is the wall blue? Why is the sky dark? And then I was like, you're never gonna give me a naked cat. And he was like, bitch, I fucking got you one. Shut up. He literally told me.
He texted me before he said anything. He was like,
yes.
Rachel's having a really bad day. Should I tell her about the cat? And I was like, well, I mean, it still counts as a Christmas present. You should probably just tell her.
He said, he was like, I gotta tell you something. I just want you to know. Because I always tell him when we have stupid fights and he says dumb shit, I'm like, do you not have friends you can consult that can be like, that's not a good idea? Aww. And he's like, no. Like, he's got friends, but he doesn't consult with them.
Not like about that.
So he was so cute. He was like, babe, you're very sad. And I did what you said. And I reached out to someone just for advice. And I just want to show you this picture. God, I literally was like, the only time I ever get horny is when I have my period. Like, as soon as he said it, I had like a lady boner. I was like, this is it. This is the time. And then I was like, oh, just kidding.
Amazing.
But, I mean, it wasn't enough for me to like go down on him. But like, it was enough for me to be like, when this period's gone, you can hit it. For sure. Don't you want to get married now?
I owe you.
Don't you? This is what we have to look forward to if you get married.
No, I don't want to get married.
Just never having... Just kidding. I mean, not really, but kind of. Well, the moral of the story is... Oh, sorry. There was a thing I wanted to say, and I swear this is it. Before it got really, really popular, there was a station I used to listen to, and this whole skit on there was that this guy gave out his number to these girls for his old cell phone. Mm-hmm. And he said, if a guy's coming up to you at a bar and you don't want to give him your number and you're scared, give him this number. And then on the next business day, we'll all listen to their dumbass voicemails. And it would literally be the voicemails of these guys being like, hey, Trisha, like, I saw you at the bar last night and you gave me your number. And like, and they were always saying the weirdest shit too. Like, I thought we were going to hang out with your cats and like spin yarn and shit. And it would be like, so fucking funny just like laughing at these guys. But then it got really popular and a girl like wrote in and was like, oh, I gave somebody that John cell phone number, and he was like, this is from that radio station, and like got an attitude with her, so they had to stop doing it. Yeah. That's all. My throat hurts from talking so much. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.